2.5 years ago, we started out with a dream. With a dream. And this is it right here tonight, folks. It's the beginning of the dream.
And now, welcome to the 2017 HRHSL Legal Expansion Draft,
featuring the Houston Aeros.
Hello everybody, welcome to the 2017 HRHSL Expansion Draft. Tonight will be a historical night for the Harry Rice Hockey Sim League as we bring about the 31st team in league history, the Houston Aeros. Tonight we will find out who the second through 32nd players in this team's history will be. Join us, so we hope you stay tuned as we will get around to the expansion draft very shortly. But firstly, we have some obligatory expansion draft related activities to go about. And before we do get into any of that analytical expansion draft activities that we are required by our job, we must first take a moment to thank our non-sponsor, Five Guys Burgers and Fries. When you've got some gay guys and you want some fries, Five Guys Burgers and Fries is your one-stop shop for all the gay guy fries you could want. Hashtag not sponsored. And of course, the 2017 HRHSL Expansion Draft is solely being broadcasted to you courtesy of the NHL Network, your only place to find the real, true NHL fake news. Broadcasting to you 24/7 the latest and greatest updates in all the ongoings of the NHL. Who else could get the news to you so quickly that Roberto Luongo had killed the Vancouver Canucks general manager and traded himself to the Vancouver Canucks? Or could have relieved the news that the Florida Panthers had re-signed star goaltender Carey Price and star defenseman Morgan Riley to 8-year contracts. Any and all Florida Panthers news is found right here on the NHL Network. As mentioned earlier, we'll find out who players 2 through 32 will be on Houston. However, we did not acknowledge the first ever player signed by the Houston Aeros, that of course being goaltender Danny Ostenbergen, a longtime veteran of the DEL. He's played for Mannheim, Iserlohn, Cologne, and most recently Munich. This past season for Munich in 16-17, he put up a 2.13 goals against average and a 9.26 save percentage in 28 games played over there, as he was loaned back there because, of course, Houston doesn't have any players, so they don't have any games to play. Danny was signed last offseason with a 3-year, $925,000 average annual value deal that runs until the 2018-19 season. And one has to wonder, once Houston's team is assembled, how many games could Austin Birkin get in the NHL or even the AHL? As he's already 32 years old, and his time as a potential NHL goaltender could be running out already. Whether or not I think he gets a chance to shine in the NHL depends on the goaltender selected in the expansion draft. There's several very, very key goaltenders that have been exposed, as I'll get to in a later segment. However, it also depends not only on that, but how they perform in the inaugural season, which I can confirm, ladies and gentlemen, will begin October 6th in Dallas against the Stars. We're getting right into the rivalry. And then the next night, the 7th, they are in Winnipeg to face the Jets. The full schedule for the 2017-18 NHL season will be posted at a later date. However, we will not be leaving for a later date. We will be staying right here to continue discussing the Houston Aeros Expansion Draft. When we come back, find out how Houston can weaponize their cap space, and later we will be giving a notable player from each team that Houston is eligible to select. Not that they will select all of them or even any of them, but just one key player that you have to look out for. All that and more after a very quick word from our sponsors. Welcome back to the 2017 Houston Aeros Expansion Draft. Welcome back indeed, and we're going to get right into the next thing that I want to talk about regarding the Houston Aeros Expansion Draft, which is their cap space and how they can weaponize it. Of course, right now they have roughly $81 million in salary cap space because of the Danny Austin Birkin signing and nobody else being on the roster. But they can absolutely weaponize their cap space. The Houston Aeros are going to be able to do that. First of all, I want to bring up trades for bad contracts. I'm going to go over these points, and then I'll go through them. Trades for bad contracts, free agency, the trade deadline, and they have more cap to sign better players. That last one's kind of self-explanatory, but I will go through all of them. But the trading for bad contracts. We've seen this a lot in the NHL, where teams will take on a bad contract, get a pick or two. I think Houston can easily do that tenfold. I think Houston will be able to come in. And even tonight, I don't think there's any spoiling when I say there will be trades tonight. I've heard talks of 2 to 3 teams being involved with trades with the Houston Aeros, and if I'm being honest, I feel like a lot of those trades could end up being good for Houston, taking on some contracts. You get back maybe some prospects, some draft picks. They can do this not only now but in the future, such as at the trade deadline. If they're buying, they can buy hard. They can buy a guy with a bad contract, take on a pick as well to eat that salary, and also use that guy in their lineup. Or potentially, if they're selling, they can end up taking back a bad contract, get a draft pick along with whatever they could have gotten as well for the players that they are selling. But obviously, we'll see about that. The trade deadline, free agency is another one, and it kind of ties into more cap to signing better players. I feel like in free agency, Houston, depending on how much they spend tonight, how much they acquire in cap space through their own picks and per trades, I think they're going to have a good bit of cap space in order to be able to fully go out there and bid on some of the top free agents in the National Hockey League. And this free agency class is looking like it's going to be a very, very solid one, very, very stacked class of players, depending on obviously who gets signed, who doesn't. We're still a good couple weeks away from free agency opening up, But that'll be foreseen, and we'll see what comes of that. But of course, Houston with the free agency, they do have more cap to sign better players. Houston is already, in my opinion, looking like a great market for a lot of players that would want to go and play, just like how Dallas has been very heavy in the free agent market the past couple years. I think Houston might be interested in doing that. Houston might be wanting to build a foundation of young players, but they're going to need those veteran players that are in the lineup. Free agency is the one-stop shop to go in order to find those veteran players. And I think that with the more cap, they'll be able to overpay a little bit, and because they do need to get to the minimum cap floor too. I think Houston's going to be able to weaponize their cap space overall, and I think BK knows what he's doing when he's going to be assembling this team tonight. We're going to take a moment really quickly. I just want to talk about something that is not Houston Aeros related. Firstly, us here at the NHL Network want to give a big congratulations to the Chicago Blackhawks on their second Stanley Cup victory in the HRHSL. Them winning, of course, the 2017 Stanley Cup over the Montreal Canadiens, the dynasty, the big dynasty of the HRHSL. But the Blackhawks, people have been asking repeatedly, what can they do post-Cup run? What can they do to ensure that they remain at the top of the NHL? And I think that I've got a couple key points here. As you can see on the screen, keep the current core together, better backup goaltender, re-signing a couple guys, and something a little controversial at the end. We're going to talk about these in order. Keeping the current core together, of course, that being Kane, Vanek, Scheifele, Seabrook, Campoli on the blue line, and Corey Crawford in net. Kane has been excellent. That $10.5 million contract has been looking very, very solid for him. Thomas Vanek, a great veteran presence. He can still score. He can still pass the puck. He's been great. Mark Scheifele, a great young center in the NHL. I think that's going to be an amazing top line. Within the next couple years, probably Vanek, Scheifele, Kane. I think those guys have definitely shown what the Chicago Blackhawks can do, what they will do in the future, and And then, of course, Seabrook, Campoli on the blue line. Many people were confused and shocked when the Blackhawks released Duncan Keith a couple years ago. Didn't try and trade his rights, just let him walk to free agency where he signed with Pittsburgh. But Seabrook and Campoli have proven to be great defensemen. Wade Redden, of course, who's 40 years old. We're going to get to him in a minute. But they've proven to be great defensemen. Campoli can handle himself defensively, so can Seabrook. They can put up some points, especially Campoli. And Corey Crawford in net. He's been your stopgap the last about decade or so since Henrik Lundqvist was traded to New Jersey. Corey Crawford's been an amazing starting goaltender, and he'll just continue to do that as long as he's in Chicago, I believe. And getting a better backup goaltender, that's right. In my opinion, Tom McCullum played well. I thought he had some decent games last season, but he's clearly not the level of backup that you want in Chicago. Now, whether it's going after someone like a Jason Bakashua or someone like that, I think if you can get a better backup goaltender, that's easily what Chicago's going to want to do. Re-signing Brûlé, Redden, and Osala. Gilbert Brûlé is currently your number one center. I don't think Mark Scheifele is ready for first line yet. I think giving him another year or two is ideal. Wade Redden, 40 years old, great offensive defenseman. He's been nothing short of fantastic for the Chicago Blackhawks. And Oscar Osala had a very underrated season, in my opinion, and put up about 40-50 points. He had a very, very solid season, good power forward. If you can re-sign these three guys, that just strengthens up your core. You've got a decent amount of cap space. The Blackhawks have $31.9 million in cap to re-sign Brûlé, Osala. They also have Paul Stastny, Max Domi, Marc-Andre Bergeron. He's getting up there in age as well. They've got all those guys to re-sign. They've got a lot of their current core signed, and if they can get these final few pieces re-signed, then absolutely, I think that's going to show. That's going to be what it takes for them to potentially win another Stanley Cup. And lastly, very interestingly, and this might be controversial, strip Tuomo Ruutu of the C. Strip him of the captaincy. He played 3 games last year in the regular season, played every game in the playoffs as they won the Stanley Cup. Ruutu is a good captain, but if you're not going to play your captain and he's simply there to be a locker room guy, strip him of the C. Give it to Patrick Kane. Give it to Wade Redden. Give it to Vanek. Give it to Brent Seabrook. Give it to someone else other than Tuomo Ruutu, who you know is going to play 82 games in the regular season. You know he's going to play every single game in the regular season, the postseason. Give it to someone like that. Ruutu is a great guy. I've met him a couple times. He's very, very nice. He's very awesome to talk to. He's very personable. But if you're not going to play him, he should not be having the C. Give him an A, maybe but he shouldn't be keeping the C. He has been a Blackhawk his entire career, yes. But at this point, if you're not going to play him, there's really no point in keeping him with the C on his chest, in my opinion. But that's pretty much all the points I have about Chicago. You can let us know what you think by tweeting to us on Twitter at NHL Network. We're gonna come back to you when we come back after this quick commercial break. We are gonna give you a notable player from each and every team that is up for grabs in the 2017 expansion draft that will be beginning in just about roughly, we have 7 minutes or so left on the broadcast. So yeah, just about 7 minutes until the 2017 NHL expansion draft with the Houston Aeros. When that returns, we will bring up the notable players, and we've got about 7 minutes after the commercial break to recap notable players, and then we will get into the actual expansion draft. So stay tuned. The 2017 NHL expansion draft begins very, very shortly. We'll be right back after the very quick commercial break. Welcome back to the 2017 Houston Aeros Expansion Draft. Alright, we've only got a little bit of time left before the start of the 2017 NHL Expansion Draft, so we are going to quickly look over a notable player from each and every team. These are going to be sorted by position because it's just a little bit easier to do it that way. So we're going to start with looking at centerman. We've got firstly Jeff Carter of the Anaheim Ducks. In 82 games last year, he put up 27 goals and 44 points. Solid veteran presence. He's got some great leadership. Very great power forward. He's got some solid face-offs as well. He can definitely help out a team and probably be Houston's first-line center should he be selected. Brock Nelson out of Boston. He struggled to find his footing in the NHL this past year in 82 games played. Put up 14 goals, 26 points. He's got a $3 million average annual value for the next 4 seasons, but he is only 25 years old. He would be looking to make Houston his next home. David Desharnais out of Carolina. He put up 82 games, 13 goals, 39 points, and a +1 this past season. He's a very underrated defensive forward, very under the radar. He can win you face-offs. He's a good voice in the locker room. Very solid defensive forward. Joe Pavelski out of Minnesota. He struggled immensely during his NHL tenure, but this past season, 82 games, he put up 12 goals, 25 points. He's played for San Jose, Washington, and Minnesota in his career, and I would believe he could be given a top 6 role to prove himself in Houston should he be selected by them. Michael Kazadal out of Montreal is one of the biggest names that has been made available. In 82 games, he put up 19 goals and 51 points this past year. And in 19 games in the playoffs, put up 6 goals, 6 assists for 12 points in the playoffs. Great two-way forward. He can put the puck in the back of the net. He can play defensively. He's only making $2 million for the next 2 seasons. He's on a very, very good contract. He is actually also a 3-time Stanley Cup champion, of course, with Montreal during their dynasty, a 4-time Cup finalist. Emil Pettersson out of New Jersey is a very interesting one. In 73 games played, he put up 23 goals and 47 assists for 70 points. He's been a 3-year veteran of the AHL. He's seen as being NHL ready with a solid playmaking role to him. He's got 2 years left on his ELC as well. Young enough that Houston could definitely use him. Cody Eakin out of Philadelphia has played 82 games, 10 goals, 30 points in 16-17. He has 50 career goals. 17 is his career high back in 13-14 of his rookie year. He's got a solid defensive game. He can win you faceoffs, and he is still young. Derek Stepan out of Winnipeg is my last choice. 82 games, 22 goals, 50 points this past year, and in 10 playoff games, he put up 6 points, 3 goals. He's been very lackluster the past couple of years, but he has had a very solid 20-goal season, a 20-goal campaign this year. His rookie year was his best season of nearly 70 points. He does carry a cap hit of $6.5 million for the next 3 seasons, so that would very much be a big risk for the Houston Aeros. Moving on to left wingers, there's not too many notable left wingers that have been exposed. However, for me, Mike Camilleri is probably the biggest one. 82 games this year, he put up 14 goals, 30 assists, 44 points. As we mentioned earlier, just won the Stanley Cup with the Chicago Blackhawks. He was left exposed. He had a 42-goal season in 2011-2012. He's been very, very up and down. However, he produced very, very well in I believe a second-line role this year. Solid veteran. He's very liked by everybody. He did not win with the Blackhawks this year because he was traded to Chicago. I apologize. I apologize for that minor error, but he did win with them in 2009, I believe. He's a very solid veteran, liked by everybody in Buffalo, fan favorite. Did struggle to score goals the past couple years, which is what he's been known for. We'll see if he could rebound should Houston select him. John Scott out of Florida. In this season, he put up 82 games, 12 goals, 11 assists, 23 points, 150 penalty minutes, which was second in the NHL. Scott is a pure enforcer who can put up some goals, actually set a career high in goals and points this year. He will defend your players whenever you need him to. He's got 1,182 PIMs, penalty minutes, in 741 career NHL games. He's a 26 Stanley Cup champion with the Florida Panthers and actually scored the Stanley Cup winning goal in Game 5 for the 2-1 win. And he's got a $1.25 million average annual value contract for the next 2 years. He could be a very solid depth guy for the Houston Aeros should they select him. And speaking of depth, Jimmy Vesey out of the Rangers. He's played 82 games, 11 goals, 16 assists, 27 points in his rookie year. He put up two goals, 7 points in 17 playoff games in the playoffs this year. He's still only 24 years old. He's got solid potential to make a team's top 6 in the future. Should Houston choose to select him, Jimmy Vesey, I think, will be a very solid addition out of New York for them. Moving on to the right wingers, we have Lyndon Vey out of the Red Wings. He's a right winger in 82 games this year, only 5 goals but 21 points. This was actually his rookie season. He's performed very well, very consistent in the AHL before his call-up this year. He's only 25 years old as well, could be a future piece for the Aeros, and I believe that is what they are going to look at, is more young pieces and trying to stay young and rebuild immediately. However, you do need guys who can defend your players, and like John Scott, Ryan Reeves is available. He's a right winger, 82 games this past year, 9 goals, 29 points, 134 penalty minutes, which was third in the NHL. So they could have the players who put up the second and third most amount of penalty minutes in the NHL. Like Scott, Reeves is an enforcer who can pop the puck in the net occasionally. While he defends your players, he's not afraid to drop the gloves at all. Of course, we've seen I think everybody at this point has seen the infamous Ryan Reeves-John Scott fight where they went at for what felt like hours. It was an incredible, one of the best fights in NHL history. Matthew Halischuk is a right winger. He played 82 games this past year, 17 goals, 47 points. He had a career high in points by about 15. He's a solid, hard-hitting forward with a good scoring touch. He was given a 1-year deal by Nashville last offseason, so he is a pending UFA. However, I believe Houston would be able to re-sign him if they want to use him in a solid third-line role. Jerome McGinley from the Islanders is available. He played 82 games last year, as well as did, I think, everybody that I have here. 18 goals. He had put up 42 points as well. He has 1 year left on a $3 million cap hit. Signed by the Islanders 2 seasons ago. He's 40 years old, still a solid third-line forward, strong power forward, not afraid to hit, not afraid to get physical, and he can score still. Jerome McGinley would be a great veteran piece, I think, to the Houston Aeros. And speaking of Alesh Hemsky, too, out of St. Louis, he put up 11 goals and 40 points this year. He's been a stable second liner at St. Louis since arriving there from the trade with Edmonton. He's been nothing short of a great veteran presence, putting up a very respectable amount of points. He's got a $3.7 million cap hit for the next 2 seasons. Ryan Hartman out of Tampa Bay is interesting. He put up 9 goals, 43 points this year, and led the Tampa Bay Lightning in playoff scoring with 2 goals, 9 assists for 11 points in 12 games. He's only 22 years old, Ryan Hartman. He had a great season, very good two-way forward. He's young, 22 years old. There was lots of potential and plenty of time for him to reach that. He's got a $4 million AAV for 1 season, and he has a pending RFA afterwards. All right, we're going to look at the defensemen next. We've got a good bit of defenders here. Firstly, Wade Redden out of Chicago. He played 82 games as well. And yeah, I can confirm the rest of the actual players, non-goaltenders, which we're going to get to afterwards, have played 82 games. I'm looking at my notes real quick. He put up 12 goals, 38 points, and only 4 penalty minutes this past year. He just won the Stanley Cup with the Chicago Blackhawks, where he put up 2 goals and 9 points in 25 playoff games to win the Stanley Cup. He's 40 years old, still putting up points. Great calming player for a sure-to-be-young Aeros blue line. You got to think you're going to need a veteran or two there. You know, you look at what Montreal did the first year, the 1 year that they rebuild. They had a lot of veterans with their young blue liners. They are now a dynasty. I'm not saying Houston can do the same, but I mean, hey, if they can win a cup because of this first season with veteran blue liners teaching the young kids, that could be something there. Brent Burns, very interestingly enough, was left exposed by Colorado. He played all 82 games, put up 6 goals, 17 assists, 23 points, and he struggled immensely this year after a very good 42-point campaign the season prior. Burns, very underrated, can actually play both defense and right wing if he's needed. He is a pure offensive defenseman or forward. He does not play much defense at all. However, he's there because he has a very solid, hard shot. And occasionally, not much last season, but he can put the puck in the back of the net a ton. PK Subban's another guy who very, very much struggled this year. He put up 6 goals, 13 assists for 19 points this season, which is the lowest point total of his career by far. I believe the lowest before this Subban had was 33 points, I believe. He put up also 2 goals, 3 points in 8 games in 2016-17 playoffs with Ottawa as they made the second round of the playoffs. And that, funny enough, his 2 goals were actually both, I believe, in the same game. They were his first playoff goals since 2010-2011. Subban had not scored in 6 years in the playoffs. He's got a $6.75 million AAV, 4 years left. He's only 28. Houston might want to take a risk. He would probably be on a top pairing in Houston, and I think that he would work out very, very well there should they pick him up. And speaking of working out well, Josh Georges out of Pittsburgh. He played 82 games last year, 2 goals, 7 points, and a -6 with 25 penalty minutes for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's a very reliable defensive defenseman. He can very much be played anywhere needed. If you need him on the power play because you're short, you can play him there. He's a great penalty killer, great third pair defenseman, very solid second pair. He'll play first pair if you need him to. He's very reliable defensively. Don't expect too much offense out of Josh Georges, but I think he could be a very good addition to the Houston Aeros and a pending UFA too. Ryan Ellis, very interestingly, left exposed by the Quebec Nordiques. They just pulled off a trade for him pre-expansion draft. They acquired him from the Montreal Canadiens. He put up 5 goals, 7 assists, 12 points, and a +20 this past season with Montreal. And also 0 points, but a +10 in 19 playoff games as they made the Stanley Cup Finals again this year. But he is a 2-time Stanley Cup champion with the Canadiens prior having won it in, I believe it was 2013 and 2015, I believe is when he won it with them. Incredibly defensive, reliable player. He can put up points. He's got a lot of experience. He's got a $4.5 million cap hit for 4 more seasons. Ryan Ellis is a great defensive defenseman. I'm very surprised Quebec would trade for him and then leave him exposed the way they did. But Ryan Ellis, great player. I wouldn't be surprised if Houston selects him when we hear from them in just a matter of probably within the next 7-8 minutes. And the last defenseman that I have listed is Mike Card out of Vancouver. In 82 games this past season, he put up 9 goals, 37 assists, 47 points, only 6 penalty minutes. So Vancouver leaving another low penalty minute taking defenseman available. Houston cannot be very disciplined blue line, and I think that would work a lot for them. Card is an excellent two-way defenseman. He's great on both ends of the rink. He can put up points. He can play defensive. He is only 31 years old. He's making $4.285 million for the next 3 seasons. A great contract for what Mike Card can produce. I wouldn't be surprised if Houston picks him. Even if they're not trying to be good right now, they do need good players that can draw the fans in and sell you some tickets. But speaking of drawing fans in, this is probably where a lot of the attention will be thrown is the goaltending situation. There are a lot of key goaltenders left exposed. A lot of starters in the NHL left exposed. Firstly, from Calgary, Andre Pavlik in 52 games this year. He put up a 26, 22, and 2 record, 2.48 goals against average, and .919 save percentage, and had 7 shutouts. He had great stats in front of a very subpar Calgary Flames blue line. He's only making $2 million for the next season, a great cap hit for as good as he is. And in 7 games this past playoffs, he had a 3-3 record with a 2.11 goals against average and a .932 save percentage. Pavlik can easily help your team. He's played great in front of subpar defenses, like I just mentioned in Calgary. Houston probably will not have that great of a blue line unless they pick every single player that I mentioned, and likely are very much near the salary cap. I think Pavlik would be a great addition to the Houston Aeros, but we'll see when we hear from them. Kari Lehtinen, another good goaltender that was left exposed by Columbus. He played 73 games this year, 34-30-6 record with a 2.59 goals against average and a .916 save percentage, and had 4 shutouts as well. Non-playoff team. He had very, very great stats in front of probably one of the worst blue lines in the NHL. He clearly can play lots of games if he's needed to. And in my opinion, Kari Lehtinen plays better when he's facing lots of shots, which, barring Houston, again, taking every defenseman that I listed, should be allowing a lot of shots per night. We'll see how that goes. Pekka Rinne, very surprisingly out of Dallas, was left exposed as they protected Linus Ullmark. They left both Pekka Rinne and Jean-Francois Berube exposed. However, I'm taking a look at Pekka Rinne because in 48 games this year, put up a 24, 17, and 5 record with a 2.64 goals against average, 9.14 save percentage with 5 shutouts. But in the playoffs, Pekka Rinne became the stuff of legend. In 11 games, he put up a 7.40 record, 1.72 goals against average, and a 9.43 save percentage with just 2 shutouts as he nearly pushed his team to the Western Conference Finals against the Chicago Blackhawks. But Pekka Rinne, great goaltender. He became the starter in Dallas this past season. He's struggled for a long time. He struggled for a long time. I think if Houston were to pick him, that'd be a great addition. Very, very solid starting goaltender for a couple of years while you're working your way up into becoming a potential playoff team. Michael Hauser could be a very solid backup. He's coming out of Edmonton. He played 12 games, 4-6-1 record with a 2.91 goals against average and a 9.05 save percentage. He had a shutout this year. First season in the NHL, Hauser was very, very hot at the start of the season, but he cooled down as it went along. And like Lyndon Vay, who I mentioned earlier, he's only 25 years old. He still has 1 year left on his ELC. That's worth $700,000. Hauser could be a good pickup for the Houston Aeros, and I like the potential that you see. I like what you can get out of this kid. Tuukka Rask out of San Jose. He played 23 games this year as the backup, had a 16-6-1 record, 1.97 goals against average, and a 9.31 save percentage with 1 shutout. He struggled for a while to find a spot in the NHL with the New York Islanders. He was their backup for a while behind Ray Emery. He found himself this year playing arguably better than Andrei Vasilevsky. Of course, did not get any games in the playoffs. However, played very well. He's got a $3.5 million cap hit for the next season, for the 17-18 season. Rask could be a very, very solid addition to the Houston Aeros goaltending tandem should they choose to pick him. Braden Holtby out of Toronto would be a very, very big risk. 70 games. He's very notable, though. But, again, very big risk. 25, 39, and 4 record. A 2.89 goals against average and a 9.06 save percentage with 4 shutouts this past season. Holtby has struggled very much with consistency the past season by season for probably 6-7 years. He's had a great season, bad season, good season, bad season, great season, bad season. This is a bad season for him. Could be an early face, could be a risky face, but a very early face of the franchise for Houston with how good that Braden Holtby has been. Of course, we know he came in as the... No, I apologize. I'm thinking of the wrong goaltender, but it still could be a very good face of the franchise, especially on the blue line. But speaking of a face of the franchise, Washington has left Roberto Luongo exposed, and he is who I'm going to end off on because he is easily, absolutely the biggest face left exposed by one of the 30 NHL teams for Houston to select. In 56 games this past year, Luongo put up a 38-14-3 record with a 2.21 goals against average, 9.21 save percentage, and 3 shutouts in 2016-17. And in 6 playoff games, he was incredible in that first round as Washington unfortunately lost like they usually do. 2-2-0 record, a 9.52 goals against average, and a 9.41 save percentage with 0 shutouts. Luongo has not slowed down at all. He's 38 years old. He was the starter in Florida, Vancouver, went back to Florida. He was their starter for about a decade until he was traded. Luongo has been absolutely incredible in Washington. He's been incredible wherever he went. I cease to believe that he will slow down if Houston were to select him. Luongo is one of the best goaltenders in the NHL still. He's not slowed down. He is playing at an elite level. He's only making $7.2 million for the next season. If Houston does not select Roberto Luongo, I will have to call BK insane, because that is one of the easiest choices that I think you can make tonight is Roberto Luongo from the Washington Capitals. But we'll see. We will see indeed, because coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the Houston Aeros Expansion Draft. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. I've run over my time by a good little bit. I apologize. But it is coming up time. It is time. It is not Vader time. It is BK time. The general manager of the Houston Aeros is getting ready to come out on stage. And I think you all can hear the crowd is loud. They are eruptious right now. They are waiting for BK to get out on stage. He is getting ready to make the picks for the Houston Aeros Expansion Draft. I'm going to leave you off, ladies and gentlemen. This is the end of the pre-show. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. The Expansion Draft will begin in just a few moments. Ladies and gentlemen, it is here. It is time. The Houston Aeros Expansion Draft. And you're 20 minutes away from being a fully formed NHL team. We're going to get ready to announce the first batch in just a couple minutes. Thank you for watching the pre-show, everybody. Enjoy the Expansion Draft. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go Aeros. Well, good luck, everybody. May this team pick who you want them to. Thank you very much. My name is Harry Rice. We will see you with BK in just a few moments for the start of the Houston Aeros Expansion Draft. The following is a presentation of the HRHSL. Hashtag not sponsored. Ladies and gentlemen, the wait is almost over. Houston Aeros fans, no more restless nights. Your team is a mere 30 minutes away from being recorded as the official 31st team in the National Hockey League. I'm your host for this evening. My name is Harry Rice. Your general manager, BK, will be out in a few short moments. However, before we get underway with the expansion draft, I think it's interesting we take a look at the modern day expansion teams and take a look at their records in the first season. We'll take a look at something else extra, but as you can now see on the screen, San Jose, Ottawa, Tampa, Anaheim, Florida, Nashville, Atlanta, Columbus, Minnesota, all of their first season records. Of course, the Sharks in 92-91 with the 17 wins, 58 losses, and 5 overtime or tie losses. Ottawa in 92-93 with a historically bad 10-70-4. Tampa 23-54-7, and Anaheim, who came in the year after, along with Florida, with a 33-46-5, and Florida with a 33-34-17. Nashville 5 years after that with a 28-47-7 record. Atlanta 14-57-7-4. Columbus coming in the year after Atlanta with Minnesota 28-39-9-6. And Minnesota with a 25-39-13-5 record. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is not to show Houston Aeros fans their team is going to be bad right away. They should expect that. No NHL team is pre-built to be good or great. You really have to work for that. You know, you really have to put in hard work and time, and the general manager has to know what they're doing to build and assemble a team. I wanted to point out the accomplishments that each of these teams that I just mentioned, who all of them have had losing records in the NHL. The closest one that has not had a losing record were the Florida Panthers, but even then, if you're including the overtime losses and ties as losses, they're way below 500 still. If you're going by NHL 500, they were the closest thing. But I want to look at each of the accomplishments that these teams have done. If you'll look, yeah, there you go. You're seeing it on screen now. The Sharks have won the 2011 Stanley Cup. The Senators were Stanley Cup finalists in 2007 when the Anaheim Ducks won that Stanley Cup that year. Tampa Bay won it in 2004. The Florida Panthers won in 2016, the Stanley Cup. Nashville had a 40-win season in 2009-2010. Atlanta was a 2009 Cup finalist. They were one game away from winning that year's Stanley Cup before it eventually went to the Chicago Blackhawks. Of course, infamously, they were up 3-0 as well in that Cup final and ended up losing. But still, Columbus, 50-win season in 09-10, just like Nashville. And Minnesota in 2002-2003, they made the Western Conference Finals. So Houston, while we might not know the record and we don't know what accomplishments they'll have, it's going to be interesting to take a look at them. It's absolutely going to be interesting to take a look at that. And I also want to note, Minnesota, interestingly, is the fastest team to have a bit of success, their highest level of success, I should say. Their third season in the NHL, going on that incredible underdog run to the Western Conference Finals. The Florida Panthers took the longest to achieve their biggest success in the NHL, 22 seasons. Of course, this being after they made the 96 Cup Finals and lost to Colorado in a sweep. San Jose has won President's Trophies. They've won the Stanley Cup. Tampa Bay just came off of a great 51 season with Patrick O'Sullivan scoring 70 goals for the first time in almost 30 years. Anaheim, like I said, has that Stanley Cup. They've been rebuilding. They just made the playoffs again this year. Ottawa, they've been a very consistently great playoff team the last roughly decade. Atlanta, unfortunately, has moved to Hartford, and now they're in Carolina. They've been a decent team. They've made playoffs. They've looked like they have potential. Nashville, unfortunately, has been in a constant rebuild, but they look like they have prospects. They have, of course, a young Sebastian Aho, Carl Vejmelka, who was the goaltender they elected to project over Jonathan Bernier and Jacob Markstrom, who are both in the NHL. They protected their prospect, Carl Vejmelka. And Columbus has been a up and down team, But I think Houston, regardless on whether it takes 3 years or 22 years, anything in between, anything over or under that, Houston fans, your team has a great chance at being successful. If you look at like I said, at what we have up on the screen with the greatest successes, every team has at least had a 41 season, and a good majority of them have at least made the Stanley Cup Finals. Out of these 9 teams, including Houston, because obviously they haven't played yet, over 50% have made the Cup Finals or have won the Stanley Cup. So I think you have a great chance of being successful, and it all depends on what BK does with this team, how your head coach works whenever that ends up being revealed, and how badly the players want to win. And hey, who knows? Maybe we'll see something historic with this team sometime in the near future, but that will be seen very shortly. And I believe we have something. I believe going back to our host Harry Race, he has something special to say. Ladies and gentlemen, the wait is over. It is time. Your general manager, BK, is coming out now. He is getting ready to make the first batch of expansion draft selections for your Houston Aeros. We'll get right to him in a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. In a matter of seconds, we will get back to BK to hear from him, his first expansion draft selections. I'm excited. You're excited. Everyone in Houston is fired up. Here we go. Time for your first expansion draft selections. Ladies and gentlemen, who will be a Houston Aero? Who do you believe so? You can put in the YouTube comments section, put in the YouTube chat, tweet at us on Twitter at Houston Aeros with the hashtag expansion draft. Ladies and gentlemen, General Manager BK, everybody, take it away, my friend.
Starting out with a banger here. From the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Houston Aeros will select forward Gaetan Haas.
Gaetan Haas, the first selection of the Houston Aeros out of Columbus, a kid from Switzerland. He's a fast, speedy forward. He has a good bit of defensive awareness. He knows what he's doing in his own zone. A veteran of the SHL, he's played 7 seasons with BLHC with 80 points in 251 games before making the jump to the NHL last season with 12 goals and 28 points in a bottom 6 role. Haas can provide a good spark to a team that needs it, and Houston very likely will. Haas is a very solid pickup early on. Houston's going to like this kid a lot, and he's only making $850,000 for the next 2 seasons to boot.
From the Boston Bruins, the Houston Aeros will select forward Riley Smith.
Riley Smith selected from the Bruins. This kid is still young. He's only 26 years old, a solid third-line forward with good potential left. He's a good two-way forward that's had a few solid seasons. He scored 27 goals, 46 points back in 2014-15. He has 97 goals, 249 points, and 581 career NHL games. So a few milestones of his will likely be reached next season with Houston. His 100th goal, 250th point, 600th career game. Smith was a former 20th overall pick by the Avalanche in 2009. He's bounced around a bit, but now he's looking to make Houston his permanent home.
All right. From the Ottawa Senators, the Houston Aeros will select Dion Phaneuf.
Dion Phaneuf is a big-time veteran of the game, selected 9th overall in 2003. Dion is a big, strong, physical defender who loves to punish opposing players, as well as get in the penalty box. Phaneuf has recorded himself 123 career goals, including 20 in his rookie season, and still a high for him. 327 assists for 450 points, along with 1,182 penalty minutes in 981 National Hockey League games. Dion will be looking to continue his excellent defensive physical play in Houston, along with record his 1,000th NHL game. Best of luck to Dion Phaneuf as he is headed over to the Houston Aeros.
From the Buffalo Sabres, the Houston Aeros will select goaltender Scott Darling.
Scott Darling is the first goaltender selected by the Houston Aeros. He's coming off a solid backup job in Buffalo, where he played 23 games this past season with a .912 record, a 2.79 goals against average, and a .909 save percentage. The 28-year-old from Newport News, Virginia, still has a bit of potential that Houston might be able to bring out of him. He plays a solid, fast game in net, very good at cross-crease attempts, making the saves there. He, as well as making some big-time saves early in his four-season career thus far. Scott Darling now headed off to Houston.
From the Philadelphia Flyers, the Houston Aeros will select forward Cody Eakin.
Cody Eakin, who spent the whole of his NHL career up to this point in Philadelphia after being drafted by them 34th overall in 2009, is a 25-year-old centerman who can win faceoffs. He plays well defensively, and he's been a good third liner in terms of points he's put up so far. He has 50 goals, 123 points in 328 games, along with only 174 penalty minutes. Eakin is a pending RFA, so Houston would have to give him a contract. However, with the potential that Eakin still has to reach a second-line role, Houston should be able to lock him up and give Eakin the ice time he needs to succeed.
Alrighty, interstate rivals here. From the Dallas Stars, the Houston Aeros will select forward Radek Faksa.
Radek Faksa is an interesting forward, also a centerman. He's 23 years old, hasn't played a single NHL game yet. He spent 4 seasons in the AHL. His first with the Texas Stars ended with 19 goals and 47 assists in 66 games. Faksa has a fantastic amount of potential to reach still. He's seen as a late bloomer after being picked 39th overall in 2012 by the Minnesota Wild. Then being signed as a free agent by Dallas, he was highly sought after. Now Houston picks him up for free. Great pickup for them, especially if Faksa is able to make the transition to the NHL within the next year or two.
From the Carolina Hurricanes, the Houston Aeros will select forward Cam Atkinson.
Cam Atkinson is a right winger, 28 years old. He's also a pending UFA. Former 20 goal scorer. He's done that twice and has 298 career points with 123 goals and 175 assists in 740 NHL games. The Riverside, Connecticut native was selected 26th overall in the 2007 NHL entry draft by New Jersey. He's played for 5 different teams. He's seen as a solid two-way forward. His goal scoring is a bit consistent, but his heart is always in the game. Cam Atkinson's a solid pickup for the Houston Aeros, who currently look to be going with a more defensive route, a very Minnesota-esque style of play, if you will. We'll see what they do for the rest of the expansion draft. Speaking of, back to BK with the next pick from the Minnesota Wild.
From the Minnesota Wild, the Houston Aeros will select goaltender Justin Pogge.
Justin Pogge is a netminder who's had a very interesting career. He was selected by the Toronto Maple Leafs 90th overall back in 2004. Then was traded as a part of the massive package for Toronto to get Phil Kessel. He played 5 games in Boston. spent several years in the AHL, and then he was signed by the Tampa Bay Lightning. He spent 2 seasons there before being signed by Minnesota to a 3-year deal. He still has 1 year left on that. He's been one of the best backups in the NHL easily. He's put up a 2.31 goals against average, a .924 save percentage over 34 games, 17 in each season with Minnesota. Pokey should be a reliable starter in Houston should they choose to start him over Scott Darling. That'll be an interesting aspect to look at as well. Houston will be their goaltending tandem, especially with Austin Birkin in the AHL potentially. That'll be interesting to look at. So yeah, there we go. Your first 8 selections in the 2017 Houston Aeros Expansion Draft. We'll get you right back down to BK in a moment for the next group of players selected by the Houston Aeros. After a very quick word from our sponsors, we'll come back to you with more from BK, including picks from Pittsburgh, Montreal, Winnipeg, and St. Louis, and Florida, after a very quick commercial break. Welcome back to the 2017 Houston Aeros Expansion Draft.
From the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Houston Aeros will select goaltender Alexander Georgiev.
Georgiev was selected 41st overall by Pittsburgh in 2014. He's played 2 seasons in the AHL. This past year, he played 28 games with an 18-5-3 record, a 1.99 goals against average, and a .929 save percentage. Georgiev is still only 21 years old on the last year of his entry-level contract. Should he be given the chance, I think he'll be able to take Houston's backup spot. Alexander Georgiev has played well everywhere he's gone. Houston gets a great, young, solid goaltender with a chance to play for a long time with them. We'll see how well Georgiev develops for them in the future.
From the Canadiens de Montréal, the Houston Aeros will select forward Michael Kazatel.
Michael Kazatel from Kladno, Czech Republic, is a center who was selected 83rd overall in the 2007 NHL entry draft by the Vancouver Canucks. He was seen as one of the first big gems when the HRHSL first started. He slowly developed into a great two-way forward, solid playmaking, good defensive play to him. Michael Kazatel has 103 goals and 235 assists for 338 career points and just 90 penalty minutes in 642 career NHL games. He's a 3-time Stanley Cup champion, all with the Montreal Canadiens. The 29-year-old is making just $2 million for the next 2 seasons. He's been a consistent 40-50 point scorer, and I think he'll be relied upon heavily for a second-line role with the Houston Aeros.
From the New York Rangers, the Houston Aeros will select forward Tobias Reeder.
Tobias Reeder was selected 57th overall by the Detroit Red Wings back in 2011. He's a center from Landshut, Germany. He's had a consistent third-line role with the New York Rangers the past 3 seasons. This past year, he had a career year, 23 goals, 19 assists for 42 points in 82 games, and he also put up 11 points in 17 playoff games. In 246 career games, he's scored 44 goals and 99 points. Toby Reeder is a gritty, in-your-face player who isn't afraid to play around the net, not afraid to get physical, and has proven this year he can also score. Reeder was a fan favorite with New York, and he will be missed dearly by their fans. But I believe Houston should embrace Toby Reeder and what he can do. They're going to like this kid a whole lot over in Houston.
From the Nashville Predators, the Houston Aeros will select defenseman Jacob Trouba.
Jacob Trouba was selected 21st overall in the 2012 NHL entry draft, a defenseman from Rochester, Michigan. He's known more for his defensive play than anything. Trouba has just 11 goals and 13 assists in 246 career goals. 8 of his goals and 5 of his assists coming in his rookie year in 2014-15. Trouba took a few years to get to the NHL, but he's seen as a solid bottom pair defenseman right now who has great potential for the future. Houston's going to likely look to develop into a good first pair D-man for the future. They've got a good one here in young Jacob Trouba.
From the Chicago Blackhawks, the Houston Aeros will select forward Braden Shen.
Braden Shen has been an interesting player in the NHL, a former first-round pick, 17th overall in 2009 by the now Quebec Nordiques. Shen took a few years to get to the NHL, but once he did, he's proven himself to be a very solid fourth-line center for both Quebec and this past season with Chicago. He's a consistent 20-point scorer with 82 total points in 320 career games. Very solid defensively. He's got a very good two-way game to himself, and his 5 points in 25 playoff games this year helped the Blackhawks capture the 2017 Stanley Cup. Shen should be a good depth pickup here by the Blackhawks, by the Houston Aeros from the Blackhawks, adding another former first-round pick. Should be nothing short of excellent for this Houston management group.
From the New York Islanders, the Houston Aeros will select forward Derek Dorsett.
Derek Dorsett will likely be the easiest player to explain in this expansion draft, a former 7th-round pick of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Dorsett has spent his entire NHL career with the New York Islanders, posting 104 points with 43 goals in 512 NHL games, along with 604 penalty minutes, including 88 this past season. Dorsett is a pure enforcer. He is not afraid to drop the gloves, loves to throw the body around. He's a gritty player, not too shabby either when he's got the puck. Should be a solid fourth liner in Houston. They are really going to love Derek Dorsett a whole lot, in my opinion. I think they will.
Well, we'll have a trade to announce from Anaheim. Houston will be getting Caden Fleury and a 2017 Anaheim second for expansion draft considerations. With that, from the Anaheim Ducks, the Houston Aeros will select forward Jeff Carter.
Jeff Carter is a great veteran presence who's a straight-up power forward. He can score, he can hit, he can pass. He's gritty. He is what you want out of a guy like him. Carter, you could argue, is the perfect power forward in today's NHL. Carter's coming off a 27-goal, 47-point season with 6 assists in 7 playoff games, 0 goals there, as well as putting up 269 goals and 374 assists for 633 points in 964 career NHL games. Carter will look to likely play his 1,000th NHL game in Houston and keep putting up points as likely, I would assume, their first-line center. Love the selection. Jeff Carter will surely love Houston, and I think Houston's going to love him. And as well, as per the trade involved Houston to select Jeff Carter, they acquired defenseman Hayden Fleury, the first trade with the Houston Aeros that we have to announce tonight. Hayden Fleury is currently 21 years old. He was selected 33rd overall in 2014. He's played 2 AHL seasons. He's looked solid. He'll surely be a good young prospect in Houston's AHL team, and he'll likely look to push for a spot on their blue line within the next 2 to 3 years.
From the Los Angeles Kings, the Houston Aeros will select defenseman Jack Johnson.
Picked 3rd overall in the 2005 NHL draft ahead of players like Carey Price and Anze Kopitar by the Carolina Hurricanes, Jack Johnson struggled heavily to make the NHL for years until he finally found himself as a consistent bottom pair blue liner in Los Angeles, where he spent his whole career thus far. The point production has all but dried up for Johnson. However, he still has some defense to him. He's not super fast, but what he lacks in skill and speed, he will make up for easily with a hard-hitting, physical game and a good defensive ability skill set that makes him a good bottom pair guy. Johnson has produced 26 goals, 94 points, along with 321 penalty minutes in 497 NHL games. Jack Johnson has never seen the NHL playoffs, what they're like. He'll be looking to change that, though, with the Houston Aeros. There we have it, the next group of Houston Aeros in the books. Some very popular names there, some big-time prospects as well headed to Houston. This is building up to be a very, very good expansion draft for the Aeros so far. We're going to get you right back to BK right now with the next batch of expansion picks.
From the Detroit Red Wings, the Houston Aeros will select defenseman Vince Dunn.
Vince Dunn, the Mississauga, Ontario resident, played his 3rd AHL season this past year, putting up 12 goals, 23 assists in 76 games played. The former 25th overall pick by Montreal in 2014, has struggled so far to make the NHL. However, at just 20 years old, the young defenseman has shown solid potential that he can turn into a great top 4 defender in the NHL. We'll see if Houston can turn him into that. I believe they'll be able to, though. Dunn will be one of 5 Houston Aeros players available for interviews post-expansion draft as well. That'll be seen over on the official Houston Aeros YouTube channel.
And we have a trade to announce there as well. Houston will be acquiring Alex Tuck for expansion draft considerations. With that, from the Vancouver Canucks, the Houston Aeros will select defenseman Victor Hedman.
The Swedish native Victor Hedman was selected 3rd overall in the 2008 NHL Draft by the Washington Capitals, having played 742 career NHL games. He had a hot start to his career with 45, 42, and back-to-back 38-point seasons, but with his 2016-17 campaign split between both Florida and Vancouver, putting up just 1 goal and 11 points in 82 games, Hedman has relied heavily lately on putting up good defensive numbers, including a plus 22 during his 38 games of Florida this season, including winning a Stanley Cup in 2016 with said Panthers. Hedman is seen as a two-way defenseman. However, he is close to putting up next to no points a year. Don't expect much offense out of Victor Hedman. He is absolutely a defensive beast. And with the trade involved, Houston also does acquire forward Alex Tuck. He was drafted 13th overall by Tampa Bay. The 21-year-old has played 143 goals and put up 64 points, including a 35-point rookie season last year. Tuck has amazing promise, and Vancouver absolutely made a mistake by trading him to Houston. They're getting a great future first-liner with Tuck, in my opinion. Back to you, BK, for the next pick from New Jersey.
From the New Jersey Devils, the Houston Aeros will select forward Barclay Goodrow.
Barclay Goodrow is a gritty centerman who's also able to put up points. A forward not at all afraid to get physical and throw the body around. Goodrow has put up 122 points in 328 games, including 7 goals and 38 points this past season, along with 36 penalty minutes. Barclay was picked 52nd overall in the 2011 entry draft. He's come as advertised, a solid grinder with a good amount of points. Given a third-line role, Goodrow could work as well as ever at the Houston Aeros.
From the San Jose Sharks, the Houston Aeros will select defenseman Tyson Barrie.
Formerly picked 9th overall in 2009 by the San Jose Sharks, Tyson Barrie is a defenseman who puts up pure offense. He scored 42 points. He's had 42 goals with a season high of 10, along with 237 points in 572 career NHL games. Also in 18 playoff games this past season, though, unfortunately only just 1 assist. Barrie is a solid playmaking defenseman, however, is seen as a bit of a defensive liability. However, with all the good defense that Houston currently has, one man who plays pure offense is not bad at all to have on your team. Tyson Barrie can provide exactly that, and I think Houston will be very happy with what they get out of Mr. Tyson Barrie.
From the Edmonton Oilers, the Houston Aeros will select defenseman Matthias Ekholm.
Matthias Ekholm is a very tough and very strong defensive defender who has a career plus-minus of minus 22. However, most of that time has been on rebuilding Sabres and Oilers teams that have given him more ice time than he's been needing. Matthias Ekholm was picked 15th overall by Ottawa back in the 2008 NHL Draft. He scored just 26 goals in 645 career games. A bit of a veteran of the game, he makes the jump over to Houston as a possibly very sneaky pickup. He brings some solid defensive play and a little bit of physicality along with him. Matthias Ekholm should be a very team-friendly player for the Houston Aeros, as he can play kind of anywhere.
From the Colorado Avalanche, the Houston Aeros will select forward Andreas Johnsson.
Andreas Johansson was picked 70th overall in the 2012 NHL entry draft. However, he has not made the jump yet to playing in the big league. He played this past season in the AHL, putting up 25 goals, 37 assists, and 72 games played with the San Antonio Rampage after playing in the SHL with Frölunda the prior 4 seasons, putting up 104 points with 57 goals in 158 games. Johnsson is a young, speedy forward with good potential for goal scoring. He's a kid who isn't afraid to get in front of the net. He's not afraid to get a little bit rough and rowdy. Very Brendan Gallagher-esque player is what I see in Andreas Johansson. Houston's got a good kid with this pick. The 22-year-old will look to make Houston's opening night roster with a very impressive AHL season.
From the Calgary Flames, the Houston Aeros will select defenseman Duncan Siemens.
Duncan Siemens is a former third-round pick of the Anaheim Ducks. However, has played all 246 career games with the Flames. He's gotten 23 points, including a career-high 3 goals this past season with 265 penalty minutes in those games. Very physical and aggressive defender. He's had some good defensive games. He's a borderline enforcer defenseman. He can defend teammates, and he loves to hit. He's also played 17 career playoff games with 0 points and 25 penalty minutes. Siemens was a fan favorite in Calgary, and surely the fans there will miss him as Houston picks up the 23-year-old pending RFA.
And with Florida, we do have a trade to announce. The Aeros will be acquiring defenseman Drew Doughty and a 2017 second-round pick originally owned by Columbus for draft considerations. With that, from the Florida Panthers, the Houston Aeros will select forward Jan Mursak.
Jan Mursak was originally a 6th-round pick back in 2006 by the Detroit Red Wings, but refused to sign with them. Went to Colorado, then was traded to Florida. He's had some solid 20-30 goal seasons, and he is looking for a massive bounce back after following up a 32-goal, 71-point campaign with just 16 goals and 39 points. Houston is going to be looking to reignite the career of Mursak, who's on a very solid team-friendly deal, just $2.8 million with his cap hit for the next 2 seasons. If Houston can get him back to scoring 20-30 goals a year, they will be very, very happy with Jan Mursak. And also acquired via the trade that they have made with Florida, they get Drew Doughty. He's been a veteran of the game, already 809 career NHL games, 298 points. He won a Stanley Cup in his rookie season, putting up 15 assists, 0 goals in 23 playoff games with the Washington Capitals. Of course, coming back infamously down 3-0 in that series against the San Jose Sharks. Drew Doughty was a big part of that rallying call in that finals. And after leaving Washington, though, he has struggled heavily in terms of offense. Houston will see if they can get him back to the hype that made him a 5th overall pick all the way back then in 2007. There we have it. A few more trades in the books for Houston and some more great players headed over there. If you're a Houston fan, I think you've got to be very, very happy about what they've done so far. We'll get back to you in just a few short moments. After another quick commercial break, we have one more trade to announce for the Houston Aeros. We have the last batch of players, and then that is it. The 2017 NHL Expansion Draft will be completed coming up after this very small, very quick commercial break. Welcome back to the 2017 Houston Aeros Expansion Draft.
Alrighty, from the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Houston Aeros will select defenseman Connor Carrick.
Carrick is another defenseman who doesn't put up a ton of points in just 2 seasons in the National Hockey League. He's put up 7 goals and 17 points in 164 career games, including a plus 16 over those 2 seasons. Carrick was picked 104th overall in the 2012 NHL Entry Draft. He's turned into a solid young prospect who, I believe, with good minutes, can prove himself to become one of the best defensive players in the league. Houston obviously believes they can turn him into that.
From the Quebec Nordique, the Houston Aeros will select forward Peter Mueller.
Peter Mueller is a 29-year-old centerman who's played 8 seasons in the NHL with 133 goals, 220 assists for 353 points in 656 career games. Mueller, who was picked 8th overall by the Quebec Nordiques in 2006, is a solid playmaker who can score goals with a career high of 19 goals, 38 assists, and 57 points. Just 6 penalty minutes as well in 2013-14. Mueller should be able to produce if given the ability to provide offense in Houston. He signed for another year at a roughly $6 million cap hit. Will likely be a trade deadline move to acquire future assets, should any teams be interested in him.
Alrighty. With Tampa Bay, we do have another trade to announce. Houston will be acquiring forward TJ Oshie and a 2019 second-round pick in exchange for draft considerations. With that, from the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Houston Aeros will select forward Matt Molson.
Matt Molson has been a great player in the NHL, putting up 510 career points, including 215 goals, 295 assists in 736 games. He put up a career year 29 goals and 44 assists in his rookie season. Is coming off a very, very down year of 8 goals, 30 points with the Tampa Bay Lightning. He'll be looking to rebound in Houston. And along with Molson, Houston is also getting TJ Oshie, who's had a very, very up and down career so far. He's coming off back-to-back 29-point seasons in Tampa. He's had a season high of 29 goals, 76 points back in 2010-2011. He'll be looking to reach those heights back with Houston. I wouldn't expect 76 points necessarily, but around the 40-50 point mark, I think he'll be able to get that out of TJ Oshie. Matt Molson and Oshie both headed to the Houston Aeros.
Okay. From the Washington Capitals, the Houston Aeros will select forward Nigel Dawes.
Dawes was a 5th-round pick courtesy of the New York Rangers all the way back in 2003. He's been a consistent power forward in the National Hockey League. A career year of 30 goals, 43 points in 82 games in his rookie season back in 2010-2011 in Nashville. He's put up 23 goals, 36 points in 82 games this past year. His solo season now with Washington. He's been a consistent 10 to 15 goal scorer. Should be able to apply his game very well in Washington. Not afraid to hit. Not afraid to get physical at all. Not afraid to fight. And he can score as well. I believe Nigel Dawes will be a very, very good second, third line power forward for the Houston Aeros.
From the St. Louis Blues, the Houston Aeros will select defenseman Mackenzie Weegar.
Mackenzie Weegar is a solid defenseman. He hasn't put up many points, only 39 in 210 career NHL games, 20 of which coming in his rookie season with the St. Louis Blues. However, what you get out of this guy is pure defense. He was selected 34th overall in the 2012 NHL entry draft by the Calgary Flames. He's been nothing short of a very, very reliable top 4 defenseman who can play with someone like Duncan Siemens if you want a great shutdown pair, or Drew Doughty if you need someone to handle the defensive responsibilities. Weegar should be a very solid addition to the Houston organization, and I believe that they're going to like this kid very, very much.
From the Winnipeg Jets, the Houston Aeros will select disgruntled forward Gabriel Landeskog.
Wow, the final player selected in the 2017 expansion draft, left winger Gabriel Landeskog. This is a guy who hasn't played in the NHL in 2 seasons. He led the SHL in scoring this past year with 47 points in 52 games played as he won the Lamat Trophy with Deer Gardens this past season. Landeskog was selected 4th overall by the Oilers back in 2010. He has 90 career goals, 204 points in 328 career NHL games, along with 24 points in 34 playoff games. Landeskog is seen as a very, very good power forward. He can throw the body around, he can score, he can set up goals. He even has a bit of defense to him. Landeskog, should he want to return to the NHL in Houston, can be a great player for them. However, a major risk still with that $5.5 million cap hit for the next 4 seasons. Houston's taking a massive risk. We'll see if it pays off. Gabriel Landeskog, ladies and gentlemen, the last player selected. That is your Houston Aeros squad, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, so BK, we know that you made some trades with teams. What was it mainly concerning? Was it exclusively to pick certain players that teams wanted you to take? Was it to take others that they didn't want you to select? What was the process behind most of the expansion draft trades here? With
yeah, a lot of the trades were really involving players that they didn't really want me to, but I had basically the favor of having a lot of those players on my list anyways, so I was able to kind of sweeten the pot for myself in a way with a couple of these teams, especially getting some, extra talent and, really solidifying, I would say, at least my bottom six, and for sure my second pairing with now Dowdy and Hedman gonna front that second pairing, I think, for sure. Looking at the early depth charts, but a lot of it was just talking about who not to select, and I'll give you this person, and along with a draft pick coming up. Second rounders can be sometimes steals in certain situations. I like getting that extra second round pick.
Yeah, completely understandable. I think most of us like getting extra second-round picks now. You acquired 3, 2 from this year in 2017, which is not seen as a great draft by any stretch of the means, compared especially to the last 2 seasons where we've gotten very, very spoiled. Can you reveal to us any sort of any parts of like your strategy into heading into this draft? Of course, your first draft as an NHL general manager, and going forward, can you reveal like what the plan for the team is? Because I know a lot of Houston fans are definitely going to be wondering what is the outlook for this team over the first 3 to 5 years of its existence.
Yes, so the plan right now is just to build a base, essentially. So with getting 2 extra second round picks, it's to build our prospect pool and make sure that we have a team for the future as well as the present. Because I feel with a couple of these selections, we might not be like a perennial cup favorite right away, but I think we can steal some wins against some top teams with the talent that we have, especially, with Gabriel Landeskog, and I think Jan Mersak can definitely have a bounce back season now that he's got, possibly top 6 duties with us. It all depends on how, the off season, the rest of the off season, and how the preseason training goes and stuff like that. But for a lot of us, I feel that, this will be the first building block for Houston. And, with after this expansion draft, I think this came out really positive for us.
Thank you very much, BK. I'm sure a lot of Houston fans will be happy to hear that you are not looking for a complete rebuild. You're looking to win some games, but definitely looking to build for the future. I feel like Houston's fan base are going to be very happy with who you got out of the draft, out of the expansion draft, and with the actual draft coming up. I'm sure a lot of Houston fans will be anticipating that 6th overall pick you are currently set to make.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, BK. That is going to do it for the 2017 NHL Expansion Draft. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for coming by. We hope you enjoyed this incredibly long and egregiously statistical expansion draft. Thank you so much, everybody. And we will see you for the 2017 NHL season.
This has been a broadcast courtesy of the Harry Rice Hockey Sim League.